Canadian Music Centre acknowledges the diversity of the First Peoples of this area and recognize the territories of the Wendat, the Anishinaabe Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Toronto is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island and around the world, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work and to live, as well as meet as uninvited guests in this territory. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Blaine, and I am the Director of Library Services and Centrediscs Records here at the Canadian Music Centre. Welcome if this is your first time here in person or joining us online. The CMC, we see ourselves as the catalyst that is connecting people to the ever-evolving world of music and creativity through performance, education, and promotion. And one of the key ways we do promotion is to record artists and composers and put their music onto commercial recordings so you can enjoy the music at home and people can enjoy it online around the world. So it's a really important part of our mission, and we've been a record label since 1981 with over 300 titles. And our latest title is Between Worlds, featuring Margaret Maria, composer and cellist, and Donna Brown, soprano, poet, and lyricist. It's a great combination, and I'm thrilled you're here to celebrate the launch of this new album, which just came out yesterday. So without further ado, let me please introduce you to Donna Brown and Margaret Maria. Thank you for coming.
Flamboyant and utterly irresistible, she danced through the park, pirouetting through the fallen leaves, reaching up to caress the bare branches of the trees, and then swooping down to gather the leaves with her hands and throw them about her. I watched with amazement, wondering what she would do next. She started to run on her toes, with her arms gracefully stretched behind her like flowing wings. Her long golden hair flowed with them. Her arms started moving slowly up and down until her toes no longer touched the ground. She became a floating mirage. Was she drifting away? Her image blurred. I sat solidly on the hard bench, feeling a heavy sadness creeping in. I couldn't move. I could only think of her image, so light and airy, so happy and carefree. The flat pieces of wood began to feel like cold black prison bars. My hands slipped down to the bars and my fingers gripped around them, holding tight. A cool, fresh breeze touched my back, and suddenly a long golden hair brushed by my shoulder. She had returned. She placed her hand on my shoulder and brought her mouth close to my ear. She spoke with a crystalline, clear voice. I am your creative desire. Let go of the bench, take my hand, and we'll fly together. Not able to move, I sat there as though frozen. The air suddenly seemed very cold, but the bench was now warm and inviting. I thought I'd stay with its comfort just a little while longer. I felt her presence slowly drift away. I'll just sit here and wait. She will return. Surely?
Welcome everyone who have come here to be with us, and welcome anyone who's listening online. Yes, we're very happy to be here and share the story with you. There is a long story. She can read the summary of it.
Yes. So you heard the first poem, which is called Sunrise, and I will read the synopsis, so just a very quick summary. So, enveloping the philosophy of Eros and Thanatos, the creative life force, and the inevitability of death, Between Worlds presents a tumultuous journey through a span of time, symbolically between sunrise and sunset. The muse begs to be heard. When ignored, chaos endures. By the time of sunset, the muse is accepted, and the balance between Eros and Thanatos restored. This recording is a unique collaboration between two artists whose hearts are very much aligned. Because of the pandemic, the recording of this project had to be postponed several times. But Margaret and Donna's fervent passion for this project held them steadfast. So yes, there was, oh my goodness, well.
A lot of obstacles on our way, but
Yes, but we're so excited. So we will be fielding some questions from the audience to kind of keep it interactive and fun. And I'll talk a little bit about what we just heard, because the coolest thing is we were in Raven Street Studios, which is in Ottawa, and we did 2 sessions there. And the very last thing we did was create this spontaneous accompaniment to the poems. And so there was a beautiful big piano in there, and Donna just dived straight into the piano, and she goes, "Oh, let's try this." And so she just went at all. So the sound effects were just like, our recording engineer, Tim Peterson, he just basically press record and took everything that we went in there, to get.
So I was playing on the keys, I was playing in the strings with my fingers until they hurt, and she was making sounds with her cello. And I have to say, then she put it all together. Well, then we spoke about how we would put it together and where we would put it together within the spoken dialogue. And so it came to a creation à deux.
Mm-hmm. And that's the first time you've kind of recited poetry, like on a recording too, right?
For sure, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that has its own set of challenges, right?
Mm-hmm. I was very afraid of that because I have done this piece in front of audiences before, and I usually have sort of Tai Chi movements to go with it, and which helped me make it scenic. So I thought, what am I going to do with a microphone in front of me? But it all worked out.
Mm-hmm. And actually, 2 years ago, in 2019, we actually had the premiere of it for full orchestra, because I had arranged it for full orchestra. And it was premiered in Ottawa with Donnie Deacon conducting the Ottawa Chamber Orchestra. So it was in that version, the musicians were asked to improvise and play a few things. And
on cue from the conductor.
On cue, yeah. But they actually kind of designed what they wanted to play in those moments. So like if I said crinkle the paper, they crinkled something, and then that was cued by the conductor. So that's how it was performed when Donna did it on stage. So that was the premiere. And then I received an Ontario Arts Council grant to make this specific recording with my cellos and Donna singing and reciting. So it's been 2 years in the making, about
right.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
We were supposed to do it in 2019, and then something happened.
Yeah.
And then we had a few setbacks where something happened again. Things were closed down again. So,
Yes.
but we went through with it. Are there any questions about that first piece? What the sounds were or the text? No?
And in the beginning, you see that that's the muse trying to come and make their presence shown. And are you going to follow the muse or ignore your muse? And I think throughout this whole project, when I approached Donna at the beginning to ask her, well, would you sing something if I wrote it? I really realized once she started sharing her poetry that her poetry is my music and my music is her poetry. It is so interlinked. So now actually, if you ask me, you should read the program notes because it tells you exactly what happened. But right now it's confusing in my head because even at the beginning I said, well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Her poems, my music, and as we go, we'll talk a little bit more about how the music was written and how it was, whether, and how it was recorded. Yeah. So shall we hear the first
Sure. The
actual
first
song?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I hear their death whispers, and I hear their death whispers. Death, my branches jar, twist and poke through my thoughts, cross-sectioning zigzag. Voice begins to form its smooth, glistening cover. Voice begins to form its smooth, glistening cover. Stopping all movement, stopping all sound, I breathe out a cold white cloud.
So some of these, she wrote music to the poetry, and others, she had the music written, and my poetry just happened to fit in, which was amazing. And there's one where she actually asked me to write words to the music, which I had never done before. But then when I listened to the music, it all just came. That was the last piece called One. And so this piece, you wrote the music to the words.
To the words,
yeah.
yes.
But in the recording, I had to record without anything, no feedback, I just did it voice.
Yeah, so
it was very difficult.
some of the music was, I had already, because there were a few existing pieces, so then Donna had to use headphones and a click track to record. But for this...
Like the rock stars.
Like the rock stars, yeah, and for this one, Donna had no backing track, and she had to just sing it. So I had to create the cello parts after she sang it. And it also happened for Lady Moon, which is the next one too.
Oh, right.
Yes. So Donna just was in the studio, and again, I trusted your timing completely. And I had to fit my cello parts to make it all make sense. So it was kind of, yeah, that was one of the
Also for
challenging
tuning,
parts.
because I had a piano would give me the note, but then my tuning would be my tuning to that note from the piano. Whereas when I'm singing with instruments, your voice automatically goes into that pitch, and sometimes we're thinking, oh, it's not quite right. It's like did it over and over, but
Yeah, but I think, and then towards the end, I have this wonderful mastering engineer, Peter Letros, Freckhouse Mastering, who's like just genius. And technically, the CD, what you're hearing is you hear 4 different recording environments. You hear Donna at Raven Street Studio.
right.
You hear my recording backgrounds that there were 3 separate spaces where I had to do the cello recording. So it just because it was kind of amalgamated over time. So one was in my sister's house, one was in closet number 2, and one was in closet number 3. So it's closets. And so I said to, I get my first mastering pass back, because the masterings, you're the final icing on the cake for me. Everything's, just to get that final sound, it kind of blends everything together, or it separates everything out. And I said, I just need a little bit of something. And I said, and I said, maybe just a touch of Deutsche Grammophon, as opposed to 3 closet, 4 different recording environments, and for me, that was a big worry, because I did all the mixing and I produced everything. So everything you hear went through my laptop. Yeah.
It sounded pretty good as it was.
Yeah. And so the whole point is that, you're battling these things. I was even concerned about the voice, because again, producing the, well, first of all, this is the first time I've written for voice. So I remember there were a few little missteps at the very beginning when I shared my music with Donna, and she goes, "Perfect." Now I'm getting to be expert. So our next project, she's not gonna have anything to say. She's just gonna say, "Oh, perfect, yeah." But at the beginning, it wasn't so perfect. I was like, I had an imagination of what I wanted to sound like, and I didn't really totally encompass exactly what it wasn't exactly Donna until I figured it out. So I figured it out. I learned fairly quickly. Mm-hmm. And so so I was worried also in the poetry, just, it's so dry, like it's just now you just hear the room, and my cello sound effects were also coming from a different room too. And some of them I added in. It was just like, it was,
Lots of work, actually, for
yeah,
you.
lots of work to try to just make it just right. And then Donna was great, because we just shot everything back and forth, and she would give me feedback. So I would just say, okay, I can do it. She goes,
More this, more that, less this.
and I said, done.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
yes,
So
yes.
I just kept, you just keep going back.
Yeah.
And I guess I learned this from someone in the audience, because the last time I wrote a film score, the notes that came back were pages and pages and pages. And this person just sat there and one by one struck them off the list. And I was like, oh, that's like how? So, yes, so Craig is here in the audience. McConnell, thank you so much, because from that I really learned what it was like, when you get that list back, you have to kind of, dig in and just not let anything affect you and just get it done. And so, yes, so time and time, fix this, fix that, fix this, fix this. It wasn't all Donna, it was me too, right? But the fact that, it took such a long process to get it
That's
together.
why you're so easygoing. I'd say, do you think maybe we could possibly, oh, sure, no problem. I thought, oh,
I said, Craig would be proud of me, see? So if it just kept going through my head, yeah. So, yeah, you kind of learn with experience that that's the way you have to go. And
I have a question.
yes.
How, so it sounds like there's such a huge emotional flavor and content to what we've heard so far. And yet you're talking about all these incredible, different recording sessions, could you ignore the click track ultimately? Could you, how you need it, obviously.
Actually, there was only one piece I wanted the click track, but it was only just a bar before I came in.
Okay.
The others I just sort of sang with the music, because I'd already done this music with orchestra. I'd already sung it. We'd already worked on it, hours and hours. And I had recordings, her recordings, so I could practice at home with them. So, yeah, it's just a matter of getting. Would have one headphone on and the other ear free to hear my voice.
That's my other question.
Yes, yeah.
Was in the development of the piece, or the journey of the piece, from working with an orchestral accompaniment and in a live situation with an audience in the room, to not necessarily a reduced idea musically, but a different idea musically. How did that? Did you find one more satisfying, or was it just a natural progression?
Yes, so she's asking if the orchestra, singing with the orchestra and singing with this for the CD was a very different situation. Well, I have to admit that actually having done it live with the orchestra and just going full out, of course that brought my level of singing in the studio much higher than if I hadn't done that. So it was very, very related. And no, I don't find it's in a way it's a different challenge. One is with a whole orchestra, with a conductor. You have to make sure everything's together. And this is a different challenge of, listening with headphones for my first time in my life, like a rock star. And so they're different challenges, but the actual emotions are always there. Always, yeah. Doesn't diminish at all. No. Because the actual music speaks for itself, actually.
Great. Thank you. So, Nicole, maybe we listen to the next one. Great.
Claws of a bird.
So yes, I have to say I've been very, very spoiled because I had Donna's voice in my headphones, in my ears for just months, putting this all together. You can imagine for this one, which I mentioned, she sang this without any accompaniment whatsoever. So she just sang it. So I had takes and takes of it.
Wow.
And I had to cut everything and find the best ones that would fit with what I could do. And then I made the accompaniment fit with it. And, but like just to hear it, I mean, well, Donna had sung it before, like so she was there, she could do it, but it was still a different, the kind of, I had to put it all together. And then at the end, we were laughing because it sounded like Lady Moo. And I said, Donna, I can put the ends in a little bit because you could hear,
Sometimes you don't hear the end, so I think you added an end.
Well, there was one take where I had a better moo, so I can add actually. So there was a little bit of digital, putting together just because simply it was done this way. Mm-hmm. And technically you hear many, many cellos, and I could never play them all simultaneously. So what you hear is the way I put music together. I just go track after track, and then so this was just getting Donna's voice and then mixing it, and then yes, sending back, how's the mix? And the mix, it took about time to get there, and finally by the end, I was great. I was again learning curve. My gosh, but then I knew exactly where the voice should be situated in the mix, and then how much cellos, because before it was like cello heavy, and like Donna says, I don't think I'm loud enough. I said, but you hear the cellos, right? So of course everything I do is cello heavy. So Donna said, can you just maybe? I said yes, and then I said, no, it's true, I can't hear the words anymore. So we had to adjust a little bit, yes, but.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a problem for diction. It's that's why we have the texts in the actual booklet too, because you can't always get every word. There's a hand up over there.
I was just going to ask, do you have any historical influence? Because I hear, maybe I'm wrong, Flute Lemper and a lot of Weimar Republic, Bertolt Brecht. Would you say so or not?
No.
That's cool.
No, but it's.
Listening to Flute Lemper, and it just reminded me
Cool.
the style of it, that's all.
Wow, wonderful.
Okay.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Another question.
Yeah. Am I understanding correctly that the melodies that you sang here, since your parts, Margaret, had not yet been done?
Yes, they were done.
They were done.
They were not recorded yet.
Okay.
Well,
so I guess I'm wondering, there was like a harmonic structure in mind as you were singing your melodies.
Yes, because I had done them with orchestra.
Got it. Okay.
But nothing in the studio.
Understood.
Very
so there
hard.
was like a harmonic substrate to all of this. Just hearing those melodies, they're
Yeah.
fairly like a lot of sort of half-step motion.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I thought, well, really, did she improvise this in 12 different ways, and then Margaret took it
No.
and then constructed it wasn't
No.
clear that this was like a pre-existing piece.
This is a pre-existing
Okay.
piece for
Yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it is
She
definitely.
just had to place what she had correctly under my voice, right?
Well, I had to record everything in because in a few of them there was nothing there,
Got it.
right?
Yes.
So Donna had played it with the full orchestra, so that she heard that version. Then there was actually a version, but it was like a tone too high, like it was so it didn't work. So I had to redo the whole cello parts basically.
Right. Of this one.
Of this one,
Oh, I
yeah.
forgot.
So basically, so when she was in the studio, which is kind of still hard in itself because she goes ding, and then
And the
she
piano was way over there, so
and
I had to
then-
walk back to the mics and
and then so whatever I had on the takes, that's what I had to use. So
Oh,
yeah,
right.
So
yeah.
this one was based on a pre-existing composition, but others on the album were done in more of a collaborative process, sending ideas back and forth.
Oh well,
This
yeah.
is what I'm trying to understand.
Oh, in the
is how-
composing of
the
it?
the composition process. How did you do this?
Each song is different.
Each song is different.
Yeah. So the next
This one existed.
We'll listen and guess.
This
So-
the lady, the first one that you heard, not the spoken one but the song, she wrote the music to the words. Now, this one existed in a certain form, remember?
What, the Lady Moon?
Yeah.
Yeah, but Lady Moon, I had your words already.
Right.
So I kind of, and because I had never written for voice, I didn't quite know how to do it actually.
Yeah,
so
the
I
actual
had,
title of the poem was Lunar Lady.
yes, which,
Lunar
and I,
Lady. And she said, how about Lady Moon? So,
yeah,
you
so
know,
it was easier for her, yeah, for me to put the words Lady Moon to the word, to the music.
it's nicer to sing too.
Yeah, and it was interesting because at that point I wrote this piece with her lyrics there, and I kind of said roughly that should be this, that should be this. So I wrote the different sections, but because I'd never written for voice nor put words to music, it was strange for me. So when I gave it back to Donna, I said, oh, I just kind of put this here, put that there. I said, okay, can you sing this or not? Just to kind of,
Yeah, and sometimes I came up with another idea to,
Right,
when it wasn't working.
Yeah.
It was a real process between the two of us. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So that one, so Lady Moon was that process, yes. What you're going to hear now is Snakes and Demons next. Yeah, so Snakes and Demons was an existing composition which I gave to Donna. And
Unbelievable that my words fit.
and she had words already, and they were just like boom, that's it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and then I had to create a vocal part from it. So you will hear Snakes and Demons next.
Snakes and demons purge forth from my bow. I can no longer hold them back. Impervious to my pleading, they crackle through the air, dancing around me. Each time I open my mouth, more float to join the merriment. How many dwell inside? Only time will tell. I am patient, patient by the end. I will await their final expulsion. I will vomit the last of them out of me. When they will finally have decided there is nothing left to erode.
Yeah. That one requires a lot of energy. I remember this was when she had a cold.
Yeah, I was really sick, and we had booked the recording session, the second session. Yeah.
And she's usually there, and she's part of my positive energy. And I found out that day, I was really tired that day, and I found out she was not going to be there. She was going to only be there on the screen of a computer, and so I was going to be alone in the studio with the sound engineer in another room. Wow. So I went in there, and but the music is so that if you just get into it, it actually gives you energy. And you can't sing it without really, really doing it 200%. So that's a sign of good music. What's interesting about this one is I had done a couple of takes, and I heard the screaming voice, "I will vomit the lesbian," and I heard my other voice singing, and it was an opera voice, and I went, I went in to listen. I went, okay, that opera voice is too far from the screaming voice. So I said, I'm going to try something. So I went in at the third or fourth time, and I just sang with on the very, very edge of the controlled technique opera sound, and the very edge of, I added that to my voice, and I did one take, and I listened to it, and I said, that's it.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all the way through that take, yeah?
Yeah. And again, with no music whatsoever.
No,
Just the click in the beginning, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then I had, sometimes I had the headphones, sometimes I didn't. Yeah, it was fun.
Just before the vocal
Yes.
component begins,
Yes.
in the cello part, it sounded like Inuit throat singing to me.
Oh,
It was
interesting.
really interesting to hear this that sound that comes from here.
Oh,
And then the soprano voice taking over. It was really
interesting. I'll have to, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, sorry, yes.
So one of our audience members said that before the voice comes in, that the cello part sounded like Inuit throat singers, and then the voice came in after with a...
I'd never heard that. Now I'm going to listen for that. Yes, it's very interesting.
Also, that's where
sounds.
Donna needed a bit of a click, because it kind of goes like...
Very difficult
where
to come in,
to come in, because
yeah.
it kind of takes a dovetail the line.
Oh, yeah.
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 And then the scream, she did a bunch of the different slides and screams. So those were, I kind of placed them in places to counterpoint with the cellos that were doing the little screams and stuff in there too. Yeah.
Yeah, I just started improvising in the recording.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. So
I was really getting into it all by myself.
yes, yeah, and those high notes, I was like,
Yeah.
And then I did use a bass drum in there. I had a bass drum in the basement of one of my studios, so there was actual bass drum. I just pound the bass drum. So I need to have more stuff in my studio I can randomly pound like that. Just, it seems like whatever I have, I use. And then that clicking part, tick, 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 I think my end pin hit the stand, so like that sound, I just, there's the sound. Tick, tick, tick. You hear the little clicking sound, right? So that was my end pin that just hit the stand randomly. Things like that happen. There was some processing for the lower. There's some kind of growling, so that's processing of certain lines. I just put a process. I use Cubase to do all my music production, and sometimes I can put like a bass, octave bass thing, and sometimes I can put some distortion on. So I don't use a lot of that, but I do because it's just fun. It's fun, and I can just expand my music with some effects, right? Which I really love, to do. But most of it's like really just cello played in.
Yeah, I was amazed how in the beginning there's all these squiggly sounds getting loud. I actually wasn't getting louder at first. I said, you need to bring that up in the beginning. Bring up your cello where it gets squiggly, and you bring in the snakes before I start singing snakes and demons.
Yeah, I made a crescendo in there.
Yeah.
And funny enough, embarrassing tech thing here. I actually don't know how to actually make a crescendo in my software.
Are you saying too much here?
Yes, and I know it's the most basic thing you should know. So what I did is I took like a bunch of lines and I would just doubled them, and then I'd make like I'd like put fade in, fade up, right?
Oh, my
So,
God.
but then like that's kind of cool because then I can manipulate it better. It's not just the same thing. I just and then it adds texture. So sometimes it's good not to be able to know how to do things because you find ways.
Find other creative ways.
Yeah, other creative ways. And so everything you hear, actually, I sometimes just like, I don't even want to tell you what I do because if you knew, you'd be horrified. But there's the wave, and I don't want to manipulate anything else because there's too many things on a line. And so I'll just take the wave and I'll just minimize the wave file so that I don't have as much sound coming through it. Yeah. God forbid I open up and try to do stuff with dynamics. No, it doesn't. It just doesn't. It's my next phase. I will graduate to that in my next phase. But this way, I just balance everything. Yes, and I still use the, put things on different lines and I mix everything one part higher and lower. But sometimes I go through, because we had an issue with the mixes, is that the cellos were too loud. And then I just had to randomly go and not just lower everything. I did at one point lower everything a little bit and bring Donna up. But
It was only in this piece that the cellos were too loud. Yeah.
But then sometimes randomly I want something, just one thing a little more. So I just grab the wave file and make it bigger or make it smaller. So so I just get to play. And there's nobody there to tell me what to do. So I just nobody to say, what are you doing, Margaret? I just do it. So
it's just so amazing how well the text goes with that music. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was.
And the next song, I have to say that is a really strange happening for me too, because I was on tour. It was years and years ago. I was on tour, and I was really fed up with the music business, and I was trying to stay focused on, and it was a simple little thing I wrote on starlight. Keep your focus on the starlight. Follow your star. Forget all the noisiness and the stuff that can happen in the music business. And it was a very simple poem, and she chose it, and I went, oh, okay. But then the music is exactly that, because it starts off completely chaotic, and it's just horrible, and then there's this voice coming in saying, I have to follow in this light of the star, and the music changes. But towards the end, she keeps singing, follow in the light of the star. But meanwhile, the chaos is still always there, but she's singing through it. It's really, really wonderful. So, and of course, we've put this into our story of, not listening to the muse. If you don't, you fall into the chaos. And so anyway, it's just interesting how that actually happened. Years later, this piece that explains what I was going through, she didn't know that. She just chose the poem.
Yeah, well, I think that I live between worlds. So this piece was actually written with that, like coming off of something that was kind of a high, and then feeling like the weight of the world. So I wrote it that way. And then when I saw starlight come through from Donna's poems, I was like, got to be kidding, because that's what I'm saying in the middle is, you got to follow in the light of your star. And it's just, and then in the end, it was already in the music, that you're following, you hear you'll hear the theme, and it's in the end, and you hear that the world is going to beat you down. And it does. The world, I don't know who wins in the end, but the poem is just extraordinary and simple. But it speaks a powerful punch. So this is Caught Between Worlds.
To follow in the light of the sky, to walk in its path, follow light, starlight. Even mist of clouds come sweet
And I think it was how we got the title too for Between Worlds. I said, we should be called Caught Between Worlds, and Donna says, oh, that sounds. I don't know. I remember you saying
sounded
something.
negative. Caught between worlds.
Yeah. So I said, I think she suggested Between Worlds. I said, fine, yes. Okay. So yeah. So
That one. There's a story behind that one. I had just done the screamy one before, and then I did. There was this one where you have to float your voice, and I went, "Oh, why did I do this 1 second?" It was so difficult. Yeah, very difficult. Boy, real challenge.
And then we move on to the sunset. So this is the
second.
The second poem.
Recited text.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did you want to share anything about that?
This, when we started coming into the story, because we wanted a storyline, and we had the songs, I thought, okay, we have this text at the beginning, and I thought, oh my gosh, we need another text to pull the muse back, because there's a nice ending with the piece 1. And I said, oh, gee, what am I going to do? So I went for a walk in Parc La Fontaine, which is right close to my house in Montreal. And I was walking, and for some reason, this poem that I had written years and years ago came to me. And it ended with, I stop and feel the soft silk petals, rose petals falling on me. Anyway, that was the end of the poem. And I thought, oh, maybe this person can turn and see. You'll see in the poem. I actually continued the poem to bring the muse back. So that's an interesting story, how I added to my poem that already existed.
Yes, and we're over the moon about the rose petals, so just to let you know.
Oh, yeah, the sound.
Pardon me? Oh, no.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll have to remember everything we just said.
Okay.
So
right.
apparently we jumped a track. To
Yes.
grasp time.
Yes, To Grasp Time did not have music either behind it. So there was music pre-written for the orchestra, but there was actually not a cello version available. And because it's very, very, a little bit improvised, it just goes through different sections. The way I wrote the vocal part, Donna just had to kind of whip it off, and she did. And then I just took all of that to my studio and made it happen. So, okay.
To grasp time, stretch the second, and invite awareness in. To seize the moment, stand still and listen. The delicate lapping of the waters create a soft sound, while the sparkles out of the waters create a dance. The dance of light enters my spirit, and I, with slow realization of being one with the lake, do not move, but allow the universe a blessing of being alive.
that was one to prepare the the poet who was supposed to be listening to his muse and didn't, and that one was a moment in time with being one with nature and just opening up to, yes, there is something greater than us.
And this actually reminds me of me traveling to Montreal before the orchestra version, even with it ready and us going through it. I brought my cello and I did the colegnos and then Donna tried fitting it. The first time she was kind of singing and learning the parts. I just remember that was like, it was. It was wonderful, but also terrifying because like it's new, everything, just how's it going to come together? And I couldn't play much of it. I could just play like a single part of the things, but I remember that rehearsal and I remember just the little things, oh, maybe we should take a little bit of time here. So I got to work with my lyricist, and it was really kind of wonderful, to kind of just see. I said, no, it's going to be good, because also she hadn't really heard it at all. She just had the orchestral music, the voice part, and I think there was a score. But oh my goodness, even just what I gave you, I'm a little terrified about how little she had to go on. But so I just remember our first rehearsals, because that was kind of for me like a big deal, because all of a sudden, my music.
Creating the music, making sound,
Yes. Okay, so should we do Sunset? Okay.
Pealing church bells ring through the air as I climb the hill. An old man bent over walks down the hill towards me with slow, deliberate steps. His cane holds the weight of many years spent. He is a moving silhouette against the red sky. As he passes, whispering breezes announce a welcoming sigh. I stop, close my eyes, and feel the soft silk touch of rose petals falling from the skies. They flutter and dance like patterns, placing gentle kisses upon my cheeks. I turn and look down the hill just in time to catch him looking back at me with a smile and sparkling eyes. He throws off his coat, and suddenly I see in his place a young woman. She begins to dance with the cane, and as she twirls, her long golden hair glistens in the light of the sun. She throws the cane and turns to me with outstretched arms, welcoming me to join in her dance. I run to her and we enter into the dance together as rose petals rain down upon us.
My fingers in the piano, in the strings of the piano.
So, so we'll talk about one, which comes last now. This was an existing piece of music too, and I shared it with Donna, and I think it's probably one of the most beautiful things I've written. I think I rarely write slow music. It's hard for me to write slow music. I'm kind of like, my inner rhythm is very fast usually. So I slowed myself down, and the original is called My Infinite Darlings, and it was kind of my feeling of what it is to be here on earth, but also knowing that, we are infinite and eternity. And it took all the people in my life and I put them all into the music, and it just hovers in a space that's eternal. So when I shared it with Donna, she came back with a poem. And
No, she asked. She said, "Could you write words to this?" I
ordered Donna to write a poem to the song.
I said, "I've never done that. I can't do that."
And then what came back, it was again, like I said right at the beginning, my music is Donna's poetry, her poetry is my music. It's inseparable. Like, I really couldn't separate it. Maybe it was even created that way before I even wrote it, because it's just the most beautiful expression of what my music is. And it's also, I think, something, well, when you hear it, it's what I truly believe, that we are one, and we should not, that the world, I do find it hard to live in this world the way I see it, and you can hear it in the darkness of what I write. It's just me trying to express myself and try to like make it more bearable. So I try to get that out. But then moments in time where you just feel the beauty of it all come. And for me, I float in the music. So
Yeah.
Donna wrote floating. She wrote, smooth
Actually,
transitions.
Yeah.
And I mean, those words were not there. Nothing was there before. And she wrote
It's just
exactly what I felt.
They came listening to it. But I also called this poem, I didn't call it When She Did. I called it Between Worlds, because for me it was floating, and I imagined us becoming spirit and going to another world, and feeling the one with everybody, like that, when you realize it's spirit and not bodies. And so I called it Between Worlds.
So
But it's
really,
also,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think maybe that's also why we named it the CD Between Worlds too. And I think, and I think also my music is a bit of a plea, to the world. You want to leave something behind, but you want to leave something where people are, will pay attention. I want to, and today for me, I have to say my thank yous. So today, right now, I'll do that before we do one. So I have to thank Nicole Blaine from Centrediscs and the Canadian Music Centre for making this happen for us and for me. This is a great thing. A year and a half ago, I became an associate composer of the Canadian Music Centre. So I'm so thrilled. I'm actually going to make the scores for orchestra that available through the Canadian Music Centre. I just saw all the requirements and I went, oh my gosh. So I'm going to just take a deep breath. Because there's specifications for the scores that they need, which I've never done before. So I'm going to make another learning curve. They're always like this, and I finally, so I will do it, and it's been on my list. And as Donna has a focusing. She called me last week. I said, Donna, I'm writing more music. I can't focus. And so she sent me a focusing message, which is live. And it went, how did it go?
No, you answered the phone and I went, "This is the service for focusing, aiding for focusing, sent by Miss Donna Brown." I thought she wouldn't, she just burst out laughing.
So I will definitely be making the scores available. So Centrediscs and CMC, thank you. This couldn't also be done without the help of the Ontario Arts Council recording project grant that I received, and whose deadline is slightly past for the final report, but that will be for next week. And I am still writing something new as we speak, so I have to just focus. My mastering engineer, Peter Letros of Rec House Mastering, he's brilliant. I love everything he's done for me, and he has nothing to go on when I tell him the weirdest things. So he's been great. Fred Cattrall is a friend of mine and Donna's from the NAC, and he did our beautiful photos. And he's amazing. So the photos you see, the album cover, and inside the booklet, he did the photos. Raven Street Studios in Ottawa, where we did the recordings. And I guess after all the different closets that I had been in, well, yes, my sister's here, so she had one of my recording studios in her basement for quite a few years. So thank you. Some of the sounds were done there, and I think that's it. I hope I didn't forget anybody. And of course, Donna for singing my music. And everybody here for coming to spend the time with us, to listen, to just celebrate. Because yes, that's the thing. Right now, I got to get down to business. Everything I've written so far, that's just been like, just part of the, I feel like I've arrived. Today I've arrived. And so now I get down to business. I want to write music. Well, all of my music has some kind of impact, but by God, we need more music that has a greater impact, and I want to write it, and I want to shake the sky. I want to make all of my dreams. I just want to write it out, and that's my next phase of life. And this little moment where you're all here celebrating with me is so wonderful. So thank you for coming and being part of my journey, because everyone in this room has been a part of my journey, and you've seen me, oh my gosh, you've seen me go through. And take all the music, it does go through me, like it comes through me, like all the emotions that you hear, they come through me, and it's awfully unbearable sometimes, but that's what I do now. So I write the music, and I don't care. It costs that emotion in that moment, and I just get so drawn into it. But then things like this happen, and Donna comes into it, and I'm in heaven, because
and then this piece that's coming up too is absolute paradise. Floating, smooth transition of our vibrant waves into one. We are all one. Something like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So here we go. One.
there any questions?
I'm curious, how did you guys meet?
Okay, the question was, how did we meet?
I don't remember because I sang with the, no, I think it was because I sang with the National Arts Centre Orchestra several times, and you were in the orchestra.
Yes, I
so
was in
that's
the
how we
orchestra, and
met.
I heard Donna singing on numerous occasions. And then she did a fundraiser for orchestra.
True.
And we've got
That's true.
my two other orchestra co-founders. It's a not-for-profit in Ottawa where we have children learning orchestral instruments from underprivileged neighborhoods. And so Miss Tina and Mr. Gary are here. And Donna did a fundraising concert at the German Embassy.
German Embassy, yeah.
And I was just sitting there going, oh my gosh, if I could write something for her voice, if only I could write for her. She sounds so, it's so, like, I was just blown away. So I wanted to write songs, and I never wrote songs before. So when I asked her, it was like,
That was many years ago.
yeah, it was many years ago that happened. Yeah. So
Yeah,
the
that's why
idea
I
was
forgot.
percolating in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And then just out of the blue, I sent her a Facebook like message,
Yeah.
Donna, will you sing my songs? And she said,
Sure. send
she
me something.
responded. So I was like, I got one. I have someone.
Yeah. Yes, Tina.
I've got a question. This piece was originally conceived with orchestra and voice. So, Margaret, how did you distill what you wanted in the recording out of the whole orchestra? It's a full orchestra, massive orchestra.
It was massive orchestra,
We were
yes.
there, in fact, Gary was playing.
Yes.
How did you distill that sound into the
Well,
You need
so
to repeat
yes,
the
so
question.
Tina's asking if this was done first as full orchestra, and then how did I distill that into this? I have to say it was the reverse. Yes, so I write most of my stuff. My cello stuff comes first. So in all of it, the cello stuff came first. And then I have a friend of mine in Ottawa. He's quite amazing. His name's Andrew Gessing. So he actually transcribes my music line by line, the wave files, and I get like 35 lines back. Yeah, he just and he puts it in time too. I would not be able to do that. I can't do that. But he is brilliant. So I didn't even know, because I remember I tried it myself. I think I went like 10 bars into something, and I was there for half an hour. I could not do 10 bars on my own music. So he transcribed line by line my original cello. I tried to put more things on it on one line so that there was more, and then I orchestrated from that actually. So it's pretty much I orchestrated from cello music, really. But when I write my cello stuff, it's very orchestral, and I hear an orchestra in my head. I don't really separate it out that much, but I can hear it because it's so full and it's so big. I said, oh yeah, I could do this. And then
But we have to say that the orchestra was not just strings. It was huge.
Yes, there was
orchestra.
winds, and there was percussion,
Timpani,
yeah.
everything, yeah.
So and then I had a friend of mine here in Toronto, John Herberman, who I went to with my orchestrations, with my orchestral ones, and he kind of went through it with me just to make sure everything looked fine for all the different instruments, because actually I've never written for full orchestra. So now I want to write more for that, because I think I could probably start now writing, I can just skip the cello. I could go off of keyboard, because actually To Grasp Time was written from a keyboard, not the cello perspective. So it was, so I did a keyboard thing, and then I made the string parts right away. So I was like, okay, so that I could do that, so it's kind of been a journey of self-discovery for me, because I'm a kind of later in life composer. Most of my music came in the last 7 or 8 years, and I never heard music before in my life in my head. So I'm just basically writing things as I hear them, and whatever I'm trying to find in my head, I find. So it was so most of it's the other way around. But now I'm kind of like raring to kind of go either from a keyboard to write and orchestrate or whatever. But it was an orchestration challenge, which I really enjoyed. So that's kind of. So now the cello versions are really kind of more dear to my heart, because they're the immediate ones. That's how my creative process comes out. Like what you hear is like exactly how it just comes out. That's pretty finished by the time I'm done a piece. It's kind of complete, and I make it. So they're usually finished. So that it was reverse. Yeah.
So I have a question. Did you have another question?
Just a quick follow-up on that. So now you've done the recording, how will it affect how you orchestrate? Has there been some shifts and changes?
Okay, so now that I've done the recording, will it affect my orchestration? Yes, I think that probably going forward, if I know I'm writing for orchestra, I would just write it differently. Yeah, because when I'm writing just for cellos, I'm so free. I could do whatever I want. Nobody's gonna say anything. And now I just like, and before it's like, and there's Craig sitting here too again. I have, so because we do something called Rage Angel together. We have this like really electro and cellos and stuff. And to create something together, it has to be on the grid. Yeah. Which means as kind of following like the metronomic and grid, so that it's easier to put other instruments with it. And when I'm on my own, there is no grid, like none. So sometimes I follow a click, like I'll follow a click in my headphones when I'm creating some of this stuff. But very soon, if I don't like the click, I'll either hemiola or like cross rhythm over the click, because why not? I don't want that tempo anymore. But God forbid I go in and change the tempo. But that also is a tech thing. So I just do more of this is my tempo. And then sometimes if I want to just go further into a different space, I just take the metronome off and I just record in time what I feel. So I'm partially tech and partially, just don't follow the tech. But yeah, I think if I'm writing now, because I have a little more experience, if I'm writing and I know I'm writing for orchestra and voice, I'll write differently. Yeah, I may still start from a cello or maybe the keyboard, but I'll write a little bit differently. So it will affect it. But before I had no experience, so I just like whatever worked and try to make it happen. Yeah.
I have a question.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Donna, did
No,
you want to finish?
go ahead.
Have you guys thought of collaborating together on like a full opera of this genre?
Opera.
Oh, so have we thought of
Starring Donna Brown and Donna Brown and Donna Brown?
Okay, so the question was, is there, have we thought about collaborating on something like this in this kind of genre, like an opera or something bigger? We should. The problem with me is that you give me something and I run with it. It doesn't matter.
I know, she's crazy.
Anything. Like, that's why I said, like, just whatever you give. And I do improv with kids. Like, whatever you give me, we'll make something out of it. So that's the problem. So see, now we have to do this. see, like it happens. So just give me more suggestions, and then it comes to me. The last thing I wrote, a friend of mine said, "Oh, you should put a scream in it. You're falling off the cliff." I said, "Yeah." There's a scream in it, and she's falling off the cliff. Yes, so it's in there. It takes a little time sometimes to percolate, but like then it's used. Yeah. So pretty much, somebody asked me once, "Is there any wastage like in my studio?" And I would say, maybe 3%. I use everything. Like there's very little waste.
So you use your mistakes and.
Oh, I use mistakes.
Oh, great.
Or
That's
I use. I
creative.
mean, there's ideas that I might just veer away from. But if you look at how much I've created, which is full, and how much is like what you would call waste, like useless stuff, there's almost nothing there. Yeah. So somehow I'm able to turn it into something. Or I sometimes say, take chaos and organize chaos. Mm-hmm. So even if it's something like, sometimes I have takes where I say, what the heck? But when I put them all together, I say, oh, what the heck?
Oh, that flows into what I was going to ask. Like, how do you do it? Like, do you get a solo cello song, and then do you actually hear all the other stuff while you're playing? Because you're doing tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you start? Do you hear a melody and put that in and then start writing around it?
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes I have a section that might just be bass first, so I put in the bass, and then you start hearing all the other parts. So then it builds. Okay. Sometimes I have a melody with no bass, and that's the more painful part. Find a harmony that's cool and interesting to make this melody seem, like new, as opposed to, so what language to use harmonically. As a lot of the times I have chords, like chord progressions that have a certain color, and I already know the emotion. So I have the chords and I have the emotion, but I never put anything into time until I'm actually recording. So I don't set it into time until my mood actually can make it happen. And so my mood dictates how fast and what kind of tempo I want. And then sometimes I'll just extend things and hold things, and it kind of just to support the mood. So I guess it just kind of organically appears. But usually when I have the idea and I've written out the chords, I said it's done. Now it hasn't been made, and there's nothing in my system, and I'm sitting there with nothing, but I have the paper and I have the emotion, and that's enough, right? That for me is done. Like, yes, it takes me for one of the pieces that I'm writing, or these kind of pieces, that takes me 2 or 3 days to finish. So I write pretty quick. If it's a little more elaborate, because I've been coming back and forth from Ottawa to Toronto, it would take me like 2 trips as opposed to just 1 trip. But usually it takes me 3 or 4 days to create something like one of the pieces that you hear. So, and then it just depends how many times I go. You got to take mini breaks, so go back in and then finish sections, and yeah. So it's like, it's a process, but pretty much I always say it's done when I have the idea of what I'm writing and I've jotted down some chords. I said, because it's already there. It's already, I know it. Yeah. And then yes, and sometimes I just sit down actually in the recording studio. There's just an emotion and an idea, but there's no music yet. So, and then I make it happen. Yeah. So that's how it comes.
Okay.
So without further ado, we are finished. Thank you so much for coming to the launch, our official launch. And for anybody live listening at home, live streaming, we appreciate you being with us too. And please, there are CDs. You can, it's available everywhere, I believe, Spotify, iTunes, everywhere you can, however you listen to your music, you can find us now, which is very exciting. And there are CDs that can be bought through the Canadian Music Centre. And yes, thanks again for sharing in this journey with us.
Yes, thank you very much, everyone.